Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with an awesome new video for you. I know it's been a while since I've made a video, but I felt that this was a good time to put out some new content. That is because last week I got to go to Blade Show 2021. That's right, Blade Show was back. As we're all well aware, 2020 was a very strange year with the coronavirus canceling most large events, including our favorite knife show, the Blade Show. However, thanks to some vaccines and some time, we are able to get back out there and live some normalcy again. So I was able to travel to Atlanta to the Blade Show, and I have some very awesome knives out here that sort of explain the experience that I have. Now, this may end up being a bit of a longer video, but I just wanted to talk you through the experience because it was a lot of fun. Now, it was a very different show than it was in years past. This is the third or fourth time I've gotten to go to the show. And again, it was very different. Some people couldn't make it. A lot of the international producers, custom makers, companies weren't able to come. There was a custom knife show in Nashville the week before, which sort of dwindled the custom knife maker numbers as well. But I still had a great time, and I wanted to go through my experience by talking about the knives. Obviously, the show is about knives in general, and so let's go through it by talking about the knives that I've got. So out here in front of you, you can see 4 knives. These 3 I obtained at the show, and this one I got sort of after the show, but it still is relevant to the entire discussion here. We have a Spyderco Shaman, a Hawk Knives Deadlock, a Koenig Arius, and a Nick Charpin Robert Carter BBM. I've got videos on pretty much all of these already on my channel, so you can go back and hear my opinions on each of these knives already. But I wanted to go through each one of these knives sort of in order of how I obtained them and talk to you about the show. So without any further ado, the show starts on Thursday night. Thursday night, you get to the pit at the hotel, the Renaissance Waverly Hotel there in Atlanta. It is attached to the Cobb Galleria, which is the convention center. If you are going to the show and you are able to get a room there, that is the best thing to do because you can just stumble up to your room straight from the show, straight from the pit, and you don't have to worry about driving or Ubering anywhere and accruing any additional costs. So Thursday night I get to the show, and Thursday night at the pit was a little bit calmer than in years past. Again, a lot of the makers, specifically the custom makers that are sort of out there on Thursday night sort of hustling and bustling, they weren't really there, so it was a much quieter night. I got to see some of my friends and just wanted to say hey to everyone that I saw there. It was a good time, but Friday was the real beginning of the show. So I'm going to go ahead and move some of these knives off the screen, and we're going to go ahead and start with the very first knife that I acquired. That is the River's Edge Cutlery Shaman here. This is the first knife that I acquired, and I got this on Friday. So Friday, I get to the show. Everything is super exciting. There's a huge line of people, and the show is packed. There was not really any sense that people didn't need to be there. You know, this was my first real experience in a large crowd of people, certainly without a mask, and certainly with this many people in over a year. I was a little bit nervous myself, being a physician, being in healthcare, having seen the effects of the coronavirus firsthand. I understood the risks involved in this. However, I was vaccinated. Many of my friends were vaccinated. This is not a discussion on whether or not you should or should not be vaccinated. However, it gave me some confidence to be able to walk around in the crowds and just enjoy life. I didn't wear a mask. Most people didn't wear a mask. I would say maybe only about 3 to 5% of people were wearing masks walking around this place. I did take extra precautions to wash my hands frequently and use the supplied hand sanitizers all over the room just to be a little bit extra safe. Because not only are you in a room with 10,000 people, but everyone is handling the same few objects and then passing them along to the next before they're wiped down. So you get a little bit of an extra risk there, and this had to have been the ultimate test of the vaccine's efficacy. So I didn't come home sick, so I can say that it worked for me, I guess. In any case, we're going to go ahead and move on to the knife here. I sort of stumbled around the room This year I did not go through with any specific plan. I did not really have in mind a specific knife that I needed to have, although the Arius was very high on that list. But I went in Friday with no specific plan. I did not have an early bird pass. I did not get in during the early bird time. I waited a little bit until they opened it to the general public, and then I just started stumbling around. I did not map out my trajectory this time. Sometimes I'll get the list and I'll make a spreadsheet or a document where I know I need to target these places. My roommate had an entire Excel spreadsheet with like 50 or 60 tables that he wanted to hit and in exactly what order he wanted to hit them. And so props to him for putting in that effort. But as I walked around, I saw all the different companies, all the different makers, and I just sort of got the lay of the land. And this is how I've sort of done it in the past a few times, but this time I wanted to get my eyes on what was out there and what I needed to get. So I happened to get into the second room a little bit later in the day. There's a major room and then the secondary room. And River's Edge Cutlery was there sort of at the head of that room. They had a big table. And I went to their Instagram page and they had mentioned that they were releasing a new exclusive. Their exclusives are generally either this finish, which is lovingly called the avocado finish, with the OD Green G10 and the flat dark earth blades, on a Spyderco. We have seen this before on the Paramilitary 2, the Para 3. I think they did a little native, and now they have done the Shaman. This is the fourth release in that lineup. I was really excited when the guy behind the counter said it's a Shaman, because this is one of my favorite Spydercos out there. Sometimes I feel like I prefer it to the PM2 simply for the ergonomics and the size. This sort of gives you a little bit more bang for the buck from the PM2 just because it's a little bit more heavy duty in a larger knife category like this. Now he showed it to me, and unfortunately he said that the knife was sold out for that day. I believe they only had, I don't know, 50 to 100 knives or something like that allotted for each day of the show. It was being debuted there, and I had missed the time to buy it outright. However, a very fine gentleman happened to cross the table right at that exact moment, and he had in his hand a small poker chip with an avocado and the River's Edge logo on it. He said, "A gentleman in an avocado suit just handed me this poker chip and told me to go to your table. What is this for?" And the guy behind the table said, "That is to purchase one of our special new exclusive Shamans. Would you like to buy it?" And he said, "No, I don't really want to buy that knife right now. I have some other things that I wanted to get." And so he was going to give up his token. And I said, "Well, if you're not going to use it, sir, I would be more than happy to purchase this knife." And so both of them agreed that I could have it, and then I was able to grab this knife. So we're going to go ahead and talk about it briefly. Up front is a blade of CTS 204P. That is part of their exclusive run. They always do it in 204P. This is a very good steel, Carpenter's version of M390/20CV. An absolutely fantastic steel. One of the interesting things about the Spydercos in 204P, and I have seen this numerous times, is that the blades sometimes crack right here underneath the Spidey hole. I've seen it on the Para 2 and the Para 3, but I'm hoping that these beefier Shaman blades don't have that problem. I feel a little bit more confident in owning this one here because of its thicker blade and its thicker grind. This one has a very pretty flat dark earth Cerakote job to it. It has this interesting sort of bronze effect, and it glistens a little bit in the light. It's very pretty. I like it very much. The knife is still very new and still requires some time to break in. I have disassembled this one, polished the washers, added a little bit of nano oil, as I do with any brand new Spyderco. It is very nice. It came dead centered. The quality is excellent. It is a perfect Shaman. It just needs to be broken in a little bit. So this was the first knife that I got, and this was the only knife that I picked up on Friday. And so I walked around the show some more, and I just found out what I needed to get for the next day. Friday night at the pit got very crazy. I stayed there until almost 2 a.m. hanging out with some friends, met some new people, and was really grateful to meet some folks that actually know who I am. I really think of myself as this humble guy just online putting out some content here and there. And people talk to me about my knives, about the car that I have, and just all kinds of things. And it was really nice to be recognized, and it was really fun to meet people that I had even conversed with and I didn't have a name to the face. And that is the true fun of the Blade Show. It's about the knives, but it's also about the people. When you get to hang out with these people in the pit and you get to talk about their collections and show them things, it becomes a whole lot of fun. And so I got to pull out knives like this. I haven't made a video on this knife. This is the Frank Fisher Fury. This one is featuring some beautiful teal paper micarta and a mother of pearl inlay and a 20 CV blade. I would say that this one probably stole the show out of my personal collection. The detent is just about perfect, and everyone seemed to enjoy the fit and finish and the material combination on this one. Passing this one around was truly a joy, and it was great to see people's faces light up. Everyone from collectors to custom makers were very impressed with this particular piece. Friday was a real blast. I had a few too many and I went to bed late. But Saturday, I knew that I had 2 knives that I needed to go and get. My wanderings on Friday proved to me that there were 2 knives at this show that I absolutely had to have. And these are those 2 knives. I had seen on the Koenig Instagram page that they were starting to do some DLC knives. This was the first knife that I acquired on Saturday morning. I got into the show extra early. I did the things that had to be done in order to be in line so that I could get this knife. These were limited to only 5 examples in this finish, and this is a special show knife only, and that is denoted by the blue anodized lock side. I'm going to go ahead and wipe some of my finger grease off of this. Koenig has done some knives similar to this in the past, but if you ever see a knife that is anodized on the lock side direct from Koenig, it is likely a Blade Show knife, and that is one of the special things that they had. By the time I had gotten to their table on Friday, they had sold out of some of their DLC knives that they had already done. They had some copper marble carbon fiber versions that had sold out, and they had some teal Alutex versions with a teal lock side. You know I would have loved to have that knife, but they said the next day they were going to have the blue ones and they were going to have the silver twill Alutex ones, and this was the knife that I had seen on their page, and I knew that I needed to have it. If there was one knife that I really desperately wanted, it was this one, and so I got it. Let's take a look at this knife. You are all familiar with the Koenig Arius if you have been following my channel. Up front is this gorgeous DLC coated M390 blade. Now, in the past, Koenig has released some DLC knives. I have been hounding Bill for a number of years to make a polished DLC Arius blade. The finishes that they've achieved, the polished blades and the bright washed blades have just been beautiful, and I wanted them to be able to recreate something like what Tony Marfione does with some of his DLC coated knives. In talking to Bill about it, he got a little bit nervous because when you send these off, some of these blades are lost in the DLC coating process. The DLC does not stick very well and you can't sell those knives. So there is some product loss when you're doing this process. Particularly the more polished the blade gets, the higher chances of failure there is going to be. What they've done on these blades is they did their bright wash finish. The bright wash is their semi-polished, highly tumbled finish that is very, very resistant to wear, and then they sent this off for DLC, and then it came back also very shiny. In the past, like I mentioned, they had done some DLC coatings, but those were the traditional, more matte type finishes. I got a little spot on there. I got to wash it off for the video now. A lot of knives have a very matte DLC finish on them. I'm going to bring out the Deadlock real quick, and you can see this one features a matte type finish similar to the Shaman here. The Shaman Also, this coating is very matte. However, this one came out nicely polished, and it is absolutely beautiful. Not only that, it features DLC hardware and the aforementioned titanium anodized lock side, DLC backspacer, and this beautiful carbon plate, blue marble carbon fiber. This is absolutely gorgeous, and I was lucky enough to be early enough in line to be able to take my pick of the 5 separate knives and choose the one that I thought was the most beautiful. So I am super, super happy that I got this knife. I am deeply grateful to the Koenigs for putting in so much effort. This is where I'm going to drop some props here. They spend 100-hour work weeks. They brought 140 knives, and they brought the very special mini Arius. Yes, they made a smaller version of this. Unfortunately, I did not get to come home with one of those. I did enter the lottery for that, but I did not win it. And then as soon as they were sold, they started selling for much higher prices. They were already $1,200 at the table because of their initial production costs. So I did not come home with one of those. I'm hoping to get my hands on one in the not too distant future so I can show it to you guys. But the Arius here is probably my prized possession from the show. It is absolutely a perfect knife. As you can see, the action and the detent are perfect, as in all Koenigs, and they have really, really perfected this knife. This weighs only 4 ounces, and it is absolutely stunningly beautiful. Enough about this knife. I went straight from the Koenig table a few tables down, and I picked up this beauty. This is the Hawk Knives Deadlock. This one I had seen on Friday, and they had 4 versions, 4 examples of this particular version. This features lightning strike carbon fiber from our friends at Fibersmith. This is a discontinued type of carbon fiber. They are no longer making this. So in discussing this with Gavin Hawk, who was at the table, he said, we will not be acquiring any more of this. It doesn't exist anymore, and we will not be making this anymore. In fact, this is the Model B. This is the same model Deadlock that I featured on my channel not too long ago. Go and check that video out. They are discontinuing this model in favor of a new one called the Model C. The Model C has an aluminum chassis. It has small carbon fiber inlays. It's a little bit slimmer up at the top, but it retains the deadlock mechanism so that there is no motion on that blade when deployed. So when I laid my eyes on this one on Friday, I fell in love with it. The combination of the copper tones in the carbon fiber with the bronze copper anodized titanium made me absolutely fall in love. As I mentioned, they had 4 of them. They said 2 would be available first come, first serve on Saturday, and 2 of them would be lottery. So I entered the lottery, but fortunately, I was in early enough to run over to their table and pick one up first come, first serve. Again, I was fortunate. All 4 were on the table. I got to handle all 4 of them, and I picked out the one that I felt was the smoothest and the best of the 4, and so man, oh man, was I a happy guy right after that. I have been playing with this one incessantly ever since I got it. It has the smoothest action and the most fun deployment of any out the front knife. In my video, I was not convinced that I needed to have this knife, and I think that that was mostly due to the specification that I was handling at that time. But this one with the 20 CV blade, also DLC coated, with this bronze and copper look, was absolutely stunning. It is really, really gorgeous, and I am so happy to have it, especially knowing now that the Model B is discontinued. They will not be making these knives anymore. The ones that they had at the Blade Show were the last few, and they did have quite a number of them for sale, but these were the only ones in this specification, and I had to have it. So really, really, really happy to have this. And then those are my only 2 acquisitions from Saturday. I spent the rest of the day wandering around the show, checking out some pieces. I had a friend who lives in Atlanta who came and went to the show with me. He ended up picking up a ProTech Malibu and a little push dagger. It was so much fun to show him around the show and just get to know a bunch of different people. Saturday night, again, fun in the pit, an absolute blast. I definitely enjoyed spending some time outside. I believe it was Saturday night. I went out with my friend Chris Lee. He goes by Behan EDC on Instagram, and he took me out to a little cove a few feet away from the main show outside, and some gentlemen were enjoying some cigars, and I ended up meeting a gentleman by the name of Mike Cusenberry. Mike Cusenberry is possibly known to you. He is a very fantastic master bladesmith who makes beautiful Damascus fixed blades, and he recently got into making some beautiful slip joints, so it was a joy to meet him, and now we have been talking, and what a fantastic maker he is. Saturday night was an absolute blast. I ended up staying up super late. One of the greatest moments of that night had to have been when I met Eric Glesser. Yes, Spyderco's Eric Glesser, the owner-operator of that company. I went up to him at the request of some good friends of mine, Thomas Moore, you may know him, and Jason Beatty. These are guys that are in the military PM2, PM3 club, and they pushed me to go up and meet him. Obviously, I showed him this knife first. Eric said that this REC version of the Shaman, as well as the PM2, are what he considers to be grail knives in the Spyderco lineup. So what an interesting thing it was to hear that from the mouth of the owner. I then proceeded to show him all of my custom knives, and I think that he appreciated this one very much. This is the Black Snow Mini Sabotage. As we all know, the Spyderco Subvert was designed and based on the Sabotage model from Black Snow Customs. So he was very happy to get his hands on a fancy schmancy version of the knife like this one here. He got to see all of my custom knives, and we talked about them each one by one. I got to spend almost 30 minutes talking to the guy, and what a fun human he was. He's a true knife guy. He really enjoyed my knives, and he said that I had great taste. So that really meant a whole lot to me coming from a guy like that. That was a very fun night. I also got to spend a good amount of time hanging out with the Koenig family that night, from Bill to Krista to John and Garrett. You know, these guys are just a whole lot of fun, and they're just really down-to-earth people. So I talked to them about everything basically except knives, what they're doing with their lives and things like that, and it was just a whole lot of fun, just really, really good memories. Sunday was a little bit of a quieter day. I actually just went into the show. I said goodbye to the Koenigs and a few friends of mine, and then I kind of left. Sunday, typically I'll buy materials. This year I did not. But I raced home, and I had this one waiting for me. This is the Robert Carter Knives and Nick Chuprin BBM. Obviously, if you've been following my channel for a long time, you will remember that the BBM is sort of my legendary original knife that maybe made me very popular back in the day. It was the first custom knife that I ever ordered, and so I have been in love with this design ever since. This is the V2 model. I got to spend quite some time chatting with Nick Chuprin at the show, and so it was really nice to have this one waiting for me when I returned. I had a little snafu in the mail, so that this didn't come until a little bit later. But this I associate with the show, even though I did not acquire it there, because I spent so much time chatting with Nick, and it really was sort of part of the entire experience. This one I ordered via their pre-order on the website. It features a hand-ground satin-finished blade done by Rob Carter, and it features the 3D grid contoured finish with the user polished finish on the handle here. It's probably wreaking havoc with my camera focus. Obviously it has some zircuti accents, zircuti on the back space, and it is an absolutely perfect example of the BBM. It is breaking in so nicely. I've only had this now a few days like the rest of these, but it is absolutely awesome. And so what a joy it was to get back to the Blade Show 2021. I hope all these will fit on the camera. I might have to do some fancy tricks here to get all these on the camera here. But I got to see a lot of my friends. I got to see a lot of knives. If you go to my Instagram feed, you'll see a lot of what I experienced there and some of the things that I saw and some of the things that I was surprised about. This is getting on to about 25 minutes of video. I don't even know if people are still watching. But Blade Show 2021 was an absolute blast, and I am looking forward to next year. Now, speaking of the next year, I should say that it is unlikely that I'm going to continue to be making videos with any regularity. I have just graduated from fellowship. I am a fully trained neurosurgeon at this point, and I'm about to be starting my career. That is going to come with it a lot of new responsibility and a lot of new priorities. I'm also moving in with a very special someone, and I hope that that will be sort of blossoming into something wonderful as well, and all the priorities and things that come along with a meaningful relationship. So if you'll just forgive me, this may be one of the last videos that I ever make. So I really appreciate all the support that I've gotten through all these years. This hobby and this channel has really been an excellent source of relaxation and creative output for me. But I have some new things going on in my life. So thank you guys so much for paying attention for all this time. If you've watched this entire video, I really do appreciate that. I have some super special knives. I will hopefully get to continue showing these through Instagram, and I will continue to be an active member of the community, but the videos are going to have to take a back seat because these take up a lot of time, and sometimes they give me a little bit of unnecessary anxiety, but really enjoyed sharing my thoughts about Blade Show with you guys. And let me know what you think down in the comments. If I met you at the show, drop a comment about what we did and talk about what you acquired over there. And talk about these knives. Let me know which one of these is your favorite. Let me know what you thought about your interpretation of Blade Show 2021. And as always, guys, this is Dr. Frunkey saying take care.